WNZK has available a few good hours of airtime for a few good programs to serve their communities. Radio is better than ever in targeting an audience that listens to what you say. Learn more about this exciting radio broadcasting opportunity by calling WNZK Radio at 248-557-3500. Call now. We are WNZK, Dearborn Heights, Detroit, your ethnic superstation at 690 days, 680 nights.
أهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر وعبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
Today's show is presented by the Ziad Brothers, and now here's your host, Ray Hanania.
Hey, good morning, and everybody, and welcome to the Arab Daily News Radio Show. I am your host, Ray Hanania, and today is Friday, December 11th, 2015. It's 8:03 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7:03 in Chicago, where I am broadcasting from. We broadcast out of Detroit at 690 a.m. and Washington, D.C. on AM 700. And, of course, if you go to our website at thearabdailynews.com, you can get the link to the online broadcast so you can hear us online if you're not in Detroit or Washington. And, of course, Layla told me that in the next few weeks, I think, she's going to be expanding all over the country. Some really big, neat things that she's going to be doing. So we're looking forward to that and having some fun. You can call us this morning, although I got two guests, but we may take some calls at 248-557-3300. And remember, you can get more information by visiting thearabdailynews.com. And also by checking our podcast, because after the show we will podcast these interviews on iTunes, and you can download them to your iPods and cells and iPhones and all your gadgets. Later at the 30-minute hour, we're going to talk with Eileen Fleming, the writer and blogger who has published so many exclusives and insights into the Israeli persecution of Christian dissident Mordecai Vanunu, who exposed Israel's lies and its nuclear weapons program and its weapons of mass destruction. Vanunu had converted to Christianity, and he was immediately jailed by the Israelis after he exposed the Israeli lie that Israel does manufacture nuclear bombs, 250 of them they have, and that was years ago, I think in the 1980s, and he's been hounded and persecuted ever since. But now we're going to talk to one of our friends, stand-up comedian Ramzy Sweis, about his career and his unique themed performances, I Never Repeat a Joke. Ramzy also writes for the San Diego Reader, and we're glad to have him back on our radio show this morning. That has to be a tough challenge for you, Ramzy, to do so many shows as you do and never repeat a joke. I've never seen a comedian do that. How tough is it?
I actually, I did it after 83 episodes. I was born in 1983, so I kind of feel like I deserve a break.
Right.
So
you were born in 1983, and have you been a comedian all your life? Did you know you were going to be a comedian?
Well, I think it's a test of strength, and I've always enjoyed tests of strength.
Okay.
But it's a really difficult time right now because when I go on stage, if I say anything that I'm identified as This is happening since I started in 2010 as a comedian. That there's people people yell racist things at me.
Really?
And
because you're Arab?
Yeah, God,
wow.
All the time.
Wow.
But that's not the only hurdle. That's only one hurdle that I would be able to, hurdle or whatever, or jump or whatever. But the second hurdle is that every time I do a show, I announce that, I never repeat a joke, and people are interested, but they don't understand. And then they need an explanation, and so when people see it, they're like, oh, well, he's bragging. And so it's a double-edged sword for me, because people, when they see the video, they think I'm bragging, but people, when they see an audience, they want an explanation, because it's their first time. They're like, well, what does that mean,
I mean, it seems pretty simple. Listen, you need me to be a bodyguard to beat the crap out of people over there at some of your shows? Because I'll tell you what, audiences do come in three groups. They're either mean and they're hecklers, or they just don't understand what you're saying. But the majority of people, and that's who I'm sure you perform for, I think they get your humor, don't they? I mean, it's simple to understand. You never repeat a joke. That's a phenomenal goal, for any comedian. And, a lot of comedians, they don't, like me, I don't do comedy professionally, but I do repeat jokes. And I believe that, most of the audience hasn't heard it, so it's okay to do it. And I try to add new material. But do you actually 100% start over every time you get on stage?
Well, the reason, yeah. Well,
wow.
But
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was like again, it was a test of strength. I wanted to see what would happen if somebody would not repeat jokes. Right now, because of my racial identity, it's kind of frowned upon, because somebody that's putting themselves under that much pressure, and when I go on stage, it's not the prettiest thing, and right now people are very myopic.
Right.
And so, I don't really look at it as humor. I was just looking at it as things that I stand up in, and right now I really don't feel, I really don't think it's right how Facebook has kind of swamped every corner of our lives, and so I was looking at it, because it's like a safety net from like YouTube, and YouTube is really difficult to master. YouTube, every 30 days as a company on YouTube is equivalent to 30 years as a film studio. So so people think, I could just put a YouTube video, make some money, and you have to flip your camera right at the right time and get like your cat licking your dog or something, and it's going to cause a lot of car accidents, and it's YouTube is really dangerous. Facebook. So I was trying to mix the two, and so I would go on stage and say a lot of funny things and say it in a funny way, but a lot of things had like truth to them, and so I would call myself like a truth warrior. And but right now I don't want to, and that's why after 9/11, when I did my show on 9/11, and then I did the article God is dog, that God is dog or dog is God. Because, Arabs don't like that shit, No,
I know, and you got to be careful about your language, okay? On radio, that's okay. Listen, you are correct that the Arab community is a tough community to do comedy for. They're very tough. They're very critical. No matter what you do, they're not going to be happy because they're angry. Our community is an angry community. They're beat up by everybody. You're Christian Jordanian, and I'm Christian Palestinian, but a lot of people out there, Americans, look at us and say, oh, we're Muslims, and they hate us for something that we're not. And that's not to say that their hatred is right at all, but they hate us because of that. And so you're up against that. You can't even explain to the haters why their hatred is wrong, because it's wrong. They don't understand it. And and then our community, we're under such siege, everybody, from every corner, that a guy like you and other comedians, we try to, show the true character of Arabs. We're smart people. Ramzy, you're a smart kid. Humor takes a lot of talent. It's not easy to make people laugh. And most Arabs, at least, they recognize humor is great, but they're touchy. You make some joke, and they fixate on that 1%, and they ignore the 99% of good. So, yeah, I know how tough your life can be trying to do comedy in the Arab community. It's tough just being an Arab in this country, right?
No, it's not tough. I mean, I'm living a really good life. I'm loving San Diego.
But you don't think that the rate, like you say, you get, racist, or, pushback from the public. Is that, that's not nice, is it? I mean, is that good?
No,
that's not comfortable.
No, but that's nothing. That's something I'll never be able. As you know, because it's been so.
Yeah.
You've seen it for so long. You can't explain it to people. But
right.
people are intelligent enough. People are really they're very in tune. Like I said, they're always on Facebook. They're very in tune. But yeah, it's tough because I got to roll with the punches. In the Arab community, they accepted me. I relocated here. And I want to show that my community who accepted me in Chicago and, did so much for me and supported me that, my feet are grounded here. And I did 10 shows at 10 different venues here. I'm still rolling with the punches, and I'm not complaining. Again, I'm very happy. I'm living the dream. I really am.
Right. But, it could be a better, and by the way, for listeners, just to remind them, we're talking with Ramzy Sweis. He's a great comedian. I've heard him. He's very funny. He's a good writer, too. Controversial sometimes, but a good writer. And he writes for, the San Diego Reader. And he's based in the West Coast right now. He was from Chicago. Sweis family's a huge family here in the United States, mostly from Jordan, I think. I don't know. Are there any other Swaises from any other country? You got any Saudi Arabian Swaises?
I don't know. I don't know the geography of the Middle East, and I always say stupid things about because the geography of the Middle East is people are very touchy about it, and if you say the wrong thing about the wrong area or region, like I just lost a really good friend of mine, Mo Shema, in Chicago,
right?
Because I said the wrong thing, and
good, but people should be smart enough. Listen. I mean, you're a complicated person to understand, Ramzy. I get that. That's okay. That's all right. But people should be smart and figure you out. And if, when people say stuff I don't like, I try to listen and give them the benefit of the doubt because I assume 80% of what people say is driven by their environment, and they really don't want to be mean. And then only 20% of the people out there really are haters. There's a small group of haters. So if somebody doesn't like you, it's because, one, they don't understand you, or two, they just hate you anyway, and they were never your friend. So,
but under your tutelage, as I worked for you under your wing for 14 months, and I learned so much under your tutelage. You're always there. When I sent you that card on Thanksgiving. And I learned that, it's been 5 years, and I've learned to be very patient. And again, people are very smart, and they're beginning to understand. And I actually just wrote an expose on Donald Trump. It's called "I Am Donald Trump," but it has a hashtag.
Right.
So I'm a really good. You said I'm a really good comedian and a good writer, but I think I'm a better writer than I am a comedian.
And I think writing, honestly, is, and I've tried to explain this to the Arab community, writing is a foundation of success in this community. Communications. Comedy is just another form of communications, and Arabs don't get it. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to do public relations. That's why we have so few Arabs in the media, so few Arabs in entertainment. We think, we want to be doctors and lawyers and engineers, and that's going to be a great thing, because back home, that's the only thing they'll accept. Anybody like you and I would have been put in jail a long time ago. We're talking with Ramzy Sweis. Ramzy, we got to take a quick break here for our advertisers, okay? And then I want you to hang on, and when we come back, we're going to continue our discussion with my guest, comedian Ramzy Sweis. He is a writer at the San Diego Reader and a great comedian. He's been doing comedy for more than 5 years. He and I have known each other since he started. I've known his family a long time. We have our ups and downs, the way everybody does, but Ramzy is a great, he's laughing about it. Yeah, Ramzy is a good guy, and I'm glad that he's on our radio show. We're going to take a break here at the 15-minute mark on the Arab Daily News radio show. I'm Ray Hanania. It is December 11th, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Ramzy Sweis, the stand-up comedian, from Chicago, now in California, when we get back right after these messages.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Jumana K-Ruse. You've seen her images on giant billboards across the metro. Jumana K-Ruse. You've seen her images on buses across the city. Now get to know Jumana K-Ruse.
It's sad, but it seems like we live in an age where most lawyers are focused on the bottom line, the money. And a lot of people have stopped wanting to truly advocate. I'll never forget this case. This woman chose me as a lawyer of last resort. She was hit by a semi truck. I was able to recover about $480,000. Not every lawyer is an advocate, but every lawyer should be an advocate.
Let Jumana K-Ruse protect your rights. Call the law offices of Jumana K-Ruse at 1-866-YOUR-RIGHTS, extension 100, or visit yourrights.com.
Life for Relief and Development is a nonprofit charity that has been providing humanitarian aid and development to people and communities regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background for over 22 years. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life rushes to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Life also has development projects to provide medical relief, water purification, educational programs, relief for orphans, and much more. Your help and support can greatly improve these efforts. All donations are tax deductible. For more information, please visit our website at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's lifeusa.org, 248-424-7493.
And welcome back to the Arab Daily News radio show. I'm Ray Hanania. Today is Friday, December 11th, and we're on the line with stand-up comedian Ramzy Sweis, who's calling us from California. I'm in Chicago, and we're broadcasting in Detroit on 690 AM radio live, and Washington, D.C. on 700 AM radio, and also live online. And Layla Al-Husseini, who runs the Good Morning Michigan program Monday through Friday in this time slot. I'm only here the second Friday of every month now, but she's on every morning, Monday through Friday. And her network is expanding, so we congratulate Layla for all the work. And she got some big award from some organization. I mean, she's getting awards all the time anyway. Whatever. No, Layla's a good person. So, Ramzy, let's take a quick phone call from one of our listeners, Jerry. Jerry's online, and he wants to ask you a question. Go ahead, Jerry.
Good morning, Mr. Ray Hanania, and thank you for taking my call, sir.
How are you? Ever hear of Ramzy Sweis?
Believe me, this is the first time, and I was surprised that we have some Arab comedians.
He's good. He's good. He's kind of like an Arab dictator, though. You know, one day he's happy, he's patting you on top of the head, like, you know, and then next thing you know, he's beating the heck out of you, right?
Well, he is, if you say he is an Arab dictator comedian, but he's developing to democracy Arab.
Yes, he is. Actually, Ramzy is a good guy.
Mr. Ray Hanania.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say to Mr. Ramzy Sweis, good morning to you. This is Jerry Habba. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very good. Thank you.
Mr. Ramzy, Mr. Ray earlier mentioned about your last name, if there's any other Sweis in Saudi Arabia or Middle East. I do connect your name with the late actor Patrick Swayze. Is any relationship between you?
I think, I didn't think of that. Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze.
One of those Arabs who was embarrassed about his last name. Changed it from Swayze.
And do you remember his movie, The Dirty Dancing? What a beautiful movie.
That's an Arab movie. Look at that. It's a conspiracy, right, Ramzy? It's our fault that they came up with Dirty Dancing. They blame us.
Yeah. Mr. Ramzy, my address to you, my conversation, are we the Arab people or the Middle Eastern people in Canada, America, all over, are we ready to accept the comedy in the theater? As Ray mentioned earlier, the Arab people, Middle Eastern, they still very sensitive to certain issue. But do you remember in Syria, the great actor, what's his name? He used to criticize the regime of late President Hafez al-Assad. And the Hafez al-Assad, the president that time, he said to his intelligence agents, leave him alone. Let him talk. He is speaking his heart on behalf of the Syrian or Middle Eastern people. This is one part of my question. Second thing, Mr. Ramzy, you mentioned Donald Trump. If you allow me, Ray, if you allow me,
you got to do it
Ramzy,
fast, Jerry.
Yeah, Mr. Donald Trump, the Republican candidate for president, he mentioned 2-3 days ago some criticism about banning Muslims from entering the United States. I just want to take your review about this, but I came very hard on Donald Trump yesterday on Middle Eastern radio station here in Detroit, and I said not every Muslim is a terrorist, not every terrorist is a Muslim.
That's what I was saying, Jerry.
And for me, as a Christian from Iraq, I stand strongly support my brother, my sister Muslim, because if they attack today Muslim, they will attack tomorrow the Christian, the Jewish, everybody else.
Look up hashtag I am Donald Trump, and you'll see it has like 30,000 shares, man. It's exactly what you're saying.
Mr. Ramzy, if you allow me to say to you, this is only a thunderstorm. The Republican candidate, Mr. Donald Trump, he just tried to...
See, I understand, man. I swear to God.
Yeah, no, we get it. Jerry, we both, Ramzy and I, get it. What's interesting about Donald Trump is he's just the tip of the iceberg. Because a lot of those right-wing nut jobs...
It's a propaganda.
They're like, they've been saying some of the same stuff. Listen, Jerry, I got to let you go, okay?
Thank you, God bless you. Thank you, Mr. Ramzy, and good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, Jerry.
Have a nice weekend.
All right, you too. Go ahead, Ramzy. What were you going to say?
I don't know. I felt like I was being rude. I didn't mean
No, you weren't being rude. You're doing good. Believe me, I'll tell you if you're being rude. How could you do that? Did you get yelled at a lot when you were a kid?
In a good way, I guess.
Really? All right, you're not a Scientologist, are you?
If that's possible. No.
You haven't joined Scientology. If you do that, you could be like, wow, the king. You could be like the new Messiah. So they're looking for somebody, and I think it's time that an Arab took over that organization.
The Messiah of who?
Yeah, they're like from California, aren't they? All the celebrities.
Oh, the Scientology.
Yeah.
I was asked to sign a contract with Blooming Twig, but I haven't written a book on Scientology.
For 1 billion years they make you sign.
They want the articles that I wrote for you actually as 83. Or I don't know. I think I wrote 83 articles for you as well as my.
I think you wrote 14. 83. That's a lot, Ramzy. I don't know if you wrote 83, but hey,
I made a video about it too.
do you have a website, Ramzy, where people can go to get information if they want to follow up? Because I hope listeners out there in Detroit and Washington, if you need a comedian, somebody who's different, somebody who's going to offer you a different kind of show, Ramzy, I think, is a good guy. And how would they get a hold of you? Where do they find you online and on the Internet?
It's a comedy style. And so usually when I perform, other people I'll ask other people if they have jokes. And so it makes everything much easier. Because everybody has jokes.
Right.
And so it's a style. It's a movie that I wrote. There's a trailer, actually, that I have. It's not the best.
I'm sure it's good, though. Don't undermine yourself. Don't ever, that's the first thing you learn in Scientology. And I'm not a Scientologist, but I've been reading all the stuff they've been writing, beating it up. Yeah, great stuff, great books. It's an unbelievable thing. But where on the Internet are you? What's your website? Where should they go to follow you, to get more information about you? Where do you want them to go?
Well, it's the same website. NeverRepeatAJoke.com and RamzySweis.com are the same website.
Okay.
You see all 83 episodes at the 53 Comedy Club, and you can read articles that we were talking about. And I actually might be moving back to Chicago to live and to stay around my grandparents because I got a contract. I got a ride to go to the Illinois Center of Broadcasting.
Oh, nice! Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, it was $9,500 grant. So, I want to get into radio like you.
Good. Listen, radio is a great way to do it, and I did it for a lot of years. I was at WLS for like 12 years.
I have a lot to say.
Pardon me?
I said, nothing. I was just saying I have a lot to say.
Yeah, and you know what? Communications is the way to get the word out. Ramzy, I want to, listen, I got to let you go because we're at the bottom of the hour, but I want to say I appreciate you coming on the show. I want everybody out there, if you get a chance, please go to RamzySweis.com. That's one S, correct? Or NeverRepeatAJoke.com. That's NeverRepeatAJoke.com. Connect with them. You can find them on Facebook also. Hook up with them, like them, friend them. Marry him too. I don't know. He gets 4 wives like the rest of us, don't you? You got all 4 slots open, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I was about to say that. And when you go to NeverRepeatAJoke.com, there's a survey about the website. So if you have anything to say, welcome.
And listen, I can promise you, Ramzy never loses his cool. So if you're honest with him and criticize him, he's just going to hug you and love you, right, Ramzy?
Yes, I everything in the name of knowledge.
All right, Ramzy, listen, thank you for coming on the radio show this morning. Really, it's nice talking to you, and I wish you a lot of luck. Okay, we'll talk again.
Thanks for everything over the years. I owe you.
All right, no problem. NeverRepeatAJoke.com is the website, and our guest, Ramzy Sweis. When we come back, we got another guest coming on, Eileen Fleming, who is a writer. She's going to join us in a little bit, but we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll have Eileen join us and talk about her writings and her life, and how does a crazy American-looking, good-looking woman end up being a champion for the rights of Arabs and Palestinians on the Internet? We're going to ask Eileen Fleming that when we come back right after these messages, everybody.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Are you going to start a restaurant or a grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Najee Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices?
Call Najee Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Najee Abood, 734-744-9796.
From their first words to first grade, Dreamy Children's Center will help get your child on the right track. The highly qualified staff works closely with parents to provide an experience that goes beyond early education. We can help nurture important personality traits with the use of educational programs ranging from preschooling for infants to Montessori-approved programs and bilingual curriculums for young children. All meals can be provided and we can arrange for after-school pickup. Dreamy Children's Center in Dearborn Heights on Warren, in Westland on Ann Arbor Trail, and in Troy on DeQuinder.
And welcome back to the Arab Daily News radio show. I'm Ray Hanania. It is Friday, December 11th, and right now it's about 8:31 on the East Coast, EST, Eastern Standard Time, 7:31 in Chicago, where I'm broadcasting, and we're live on 690 AM in Greater Detroit, WNZK, and also AM 700 radio in Washington, D.C. And if you go to our website, thearabdailynews.com, you can get information on the radio show, and if you're not in Detroit or Washington, D.C., you can listen to us online. And if you can't listen to us, you're busy doing things like sleeping. Some people might be sleeping. This time you can always connect to our podcast on iTunes, and you can get that off of our website again at thearabdailynews.com. One of the people that I've known for a while and who writes at the Arab Daily News, great writer, is a friend of mine, Eileen Fleming. And Eileen Fleming is a writer and a blogger. She's published so many exclusive stories about the Middle East. I don't know. I don't get how this beautiful non-Arab woman spends most of her time writing about Arabs. Eileen, what's that all about?
It's about thing, Ray. Before that day we call 9/11, and before I even get there, I have to say how excited I was to hear Ramzy. I didn't realize how young he was. I've got a daughter a year older than he is. And before that day we call 9/11, I was your typical comfortably numb American. I didn't think anything beyond my comfort zone, my family, my little community. And I had already embarked upon a formation program for spiritual directors through the Episcopal and Methodist Diocese in Orlando. So I was always a writer, but I was learning now about the saints, and different things were going on in my life, dreams, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. That day we call 9/11 happens, and so many things came to my realization. Number one was the media was not asking my questions. And as a child, I wanted to be a reporter, and I think that was the catalyst, the spark that began my investigating, researching. But because I am a lover of the nonviolent Jesus, who said it is the peacemakers who are the children of God, I was looking for something positive, a positive response with Jesus, how Jesus would respond to this madness. This
so
violence.
you don't believe, you don't accept Chrislamicism, which is the Christian fanaticism, radical Chrislamic extremism is what I call it.
I say
you don't accept that.
In all religions, and as Martin Luther King Jr. said, extremism runs. This is what moves the world. So what are we going to be extremists for? Right. And I picked to be an extremist for what Jesus would be an extremist for: the truth, compassion, forgiveness, and doing, understanding that God is within everyone. Doesn't matter what they think in their head. God's already within them by virtue that they are alive.
But so Donald Trump says he loves Jesus too.
Yes. I mean, Jesus is for everyone. The Christians don't own Jesus. He's got his arms open for everyone. And so I looked, and I met a man who, a 1948 Palestinian Muslim refugee, Dr. Khalad Diab. He was living in Orlando. He has since died, but at that time he was in Orlando. and he founded the Olive Tree Foundation for Peace as a positive response to the madness that we got from 9/11, pre and post. And we were focused on raising awareness about Israel's wall, and that is an apartheid wall, we know. It's funded by USA taxpayers, and a lot of it, Haaretz has done a great job about the settlements, how much money, American money is over there, and where it's going. It's I've got to follow up and do a story on that. I'm getting ahead of myself, but Dr. Diab, although he was a Muslim, he was the best Christian I've ever known, because he did what Jesus said. You must love, you must forgive, you must bless your enemies. So before the Olive Tree Foundation for Peace disbanded, we had raised a lot of awareness and funds in America to purchase it ended up being 40,000 3-year-old fruit-bearing, mostly olive trees, saplings that were planted on both sides of the walls. Wow. And this was literally the olive branch, extending it.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, so anyway, when I went over there, I was just a writer. I was always a writer, and I was writing Dr. Diab's story, and that's my first book. Is based on his memories, his memoirs, and I begin to tell my spiritual journey in that book, and it continues. All my books, they're all a God thing, and I was not a reporter until June of 2005. I had serendipitously, I say it was a God instance, how I even met Mordecai Vanunu, and we began a series of interviews, and his life preceding, everything is very interesting. His childhood, his spiritual journey, all of that's very interesting. But it was when he said, did you know that President Kennedy tried to get Israel to open up the Dimona, and Kennedy would send letters, and Ben Gurion would say, oh, it's only for peace, it's only for peace. When Johnson became president, he would send 2 senators over to Israel, the Dimona, but before they got there, the big joke was the Israelis would seal up all the stairwells and the doorways, so the senators, they had a great, view of the first floor, but never knew what was going on 7 stories underground, which was already thermonuclear.
Let me just explain to listeners a little bit about what you're talking about. Dimona is the nuclear reactor area in Israel, in the Negev, that Israel claims doesn't really exist, or at least for most of Israel's existence, they've insisted that it doesn't exist, and they don't build weapons of mass destruction and nuclear bombs. And so many American politicians, like you point out, LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, kind of, went along with it. They didn't want to challenge Israel. They knew Israel was lying, but they didn't want to embarrass Israel. Meanwhile, they were cracking down on every other country that had nuclear weapons and warning about nuclear proliferation and nuclear holocaust. And how we got to ban the bomb, but not Israel. And then you meet the guy who blew the whistle on it, Mordecai Vanunu.
Yeah. And
you met him in 2005, right?
Right.
And
he's
Israel jailed him. Didn't he work at the Dimona Nuclear Center?
He has not set foot in the Dimona Center since 1985, and we'll talk about what he did. And he was just a mid-level technician. Let me start from the beginning. He was born in 1954. The Zionists come to Marrakesh, Morocco, convince his Orthodox Zionist father to settle in Israel, and they have family in Nazareth. But when they get to Israel, they're assigned to Beersheba, which is another one of the 500 ethnically cleansed Palestinian villages that Israel wiped off the map.
Right.
And Vanunu said, he was already disconnected from Judaism and God and society. He's 9 years old. He'd walk around and he'd see mosques, but he never saw a Palestinian, not until, and then, he was in the Israeli occupying forces in Bethlehem, and he did not encounter a Palestinian as a human person, an equal person, until he went to the university. And that's when he also took a job on the night shift at the Dimona just to pay his rent. He said he didn't really want the job. The sign outside said it was a textile plant. Everybody signed a secrecy agreement that they're not going to talk about what they do. It's very compartmentalized. And I'm not sure how many years he was there before he started putting two and two together, but I think he was there a total of 9 years. And when he realizes they are starting to work on thermonuclear technology, the Nunu sneaks in a camera and film on separate occasions, stows them in his backpack. Everything is checked. The employees' backpacks and belongings is checked coming in and out of the Dimona. So he really ended up alerting them to their lax security, because one night a supervisor leaves the keys to all these restricted areas in the shower room. And because Vanunu was a good worker and everybody was used to him and he was quiet, nobody suspected him, and he lifted the keys and he spent a couple of harrowing hours photographing all these, like 2 rolls of film of the Dimona. He sneaks and puts the keys back. He sneaks out his camera and film on separate occasions again. And he doesn't quit the Dimona until they start laying people off, and then they were going to transfer him, and he decides now's the time to go. He leaves, and he travels around Europe for like 10 months with the undeveloped film, ends up in Sydney, Australia, wanders into a social justice Anglican church, hits it off with Father Dave, who also, he would be a good guest for you to interview. He's in Australia. And anyway, one thing leads to another. Vanunu starts sharing, his story about the Dimona. Father Dave thinks he's, off his nut, because, there was no reason to believe any of this. There's no proof, because Vanunu still had not...
And Israel was denying it. Israel was saying, we don't have nuclear weapons, we don't have a nuclear program, and the United States was protecting them.
Yeah, right? Definitely. Israel could not get away with their nuclear deceptions or occupation of Palestine without USA.
Right. Exactly.
Collusion, protection, and our tax dollars.
So he's with this Anglican Christian leader in, you said, Australia?
Well, he's Father Dave, fighting Father David Smith. I'll connect you. I'll connect you guys after the show.
All right. Yeah, go ahead. Tell us the story.
Yeah, but anyway, Vanunu ends up telling his story, and one thing leads to another. He connects with Peter Hunem from London Sunday Times, and Peter comes to Sydney, Australia, interviews Vanunu. They together develop the pictures. Then Vanunu leaves with Peter to London. They hire Frank Barnaby, a nuclear physicist, to vet Vanunu's story. He interviews Vanunu for like 3 days, but they had Vanunu holed up in like a little hotel room for I don't know how many weeks, whatever it was. He gets antsy. He starts wandering around. He meets who he thinks is an American beautician on holiday. Yeah, she's an American traveling with her sister-in-law's passport, and she is a Mossad operative. Right. So here she traps Vanunu, and he said to me, there's this big thing, it was a honeypot, it was all about like sex, but they both had their own rooms in London. They were
that's
besides and they left.
That's besides the point. The point is, though, that the Mossad tracks him down.
Definitely.
He's talking to the London newspaper, right?
Yeah, what happens is the UK didn't want to get involved, so they had to get him over to Rome. They had to get him because Thatcher didn't want anything to do with it. The governments knew. Israel knew, America knew, they knew what was going on. But a few of the pictures had gotten into the hands of a tabloid, like, our whatever it is, National Enquirer, wherever that's still around, a tabloid, and they print a very bad story about Vanunu. They never interview him, but they put his picture in the paper and a few of the photos. Anyway, he panics. He tells Cindy Sherrill, hey, now the Mossad's after me. She says, oh, well, I've got a sister in Rome. She gets the tickets. They fly to Rome. The second he's in the hotel room, they hit him on the head, they drug him, they fling him on a ship, a cargo ship or a small yacht. They transport him back to Israel for a closed-door trial. They keep him totally away from the media. They put him in solitary confinement for 11 and a half of his 18 years, and then they free him April 21, 2004 under these draconian restrictions. You can't talk to foreigners, you can't have a cell phone, you can't have an internet connection. He's got he's got all that. He's got a website. He's got a YouTube channel. He's on Facebook. It's insane. And I show up in June of 2005, and he'd already been out for a year. They were already bringing charges against him. They were going to have this freedom of speech trial because he dared to speak to foreigners when he got out of jail after 18 years. And number one in America, only one really, was Amy Goodman, but that's a whole other story. I write about that.
Listen,
but anyway,
hang on,
when Benita tells me...
Eileen, you got to hang on. I got to take a break now. It's a quarter to the top of the hour.
Okay.
So, Eileen, you just hang on a second. We're talking with Eileen Fleming, who has this story that a lot of people, believe it or not, have not heard of. Or if they've heard of, they don't understand it. This guy, an Israeli Jew from Morocco, who broke the secret about Israel's nuclear weapons, and the Israeli Mossad kidnapped him and brought him to Israel and put him in jail for 18 years. He lived, as Eileen points out, in solitary confinement for 11 of those 18 years. And when they release him, they put, as she said, draconian restrictions on him, which we're going to follow up on where he is today and what's happened since then, because it hasn't been a good story, and Israel deserves to be criticized for the way they're treating Mordecai Vanunu, who, by the way, converted to Christianity. And if you're a Christian and you don't sit there and think that that's wrong, then you're not really a Christian. I'm Ray Hanania. This is the Arab Daily News radio show, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk with Eileen Fleming right after these messages.
أسواق زمزم الواقع على 24065 أورشد ليك في مدينة فارمington هاوس ترحب بالجالية العربية والكلدانية. تنزيلات كبيرة على عموم المواد الغذائية في يوم الأربعاء من كل أسبوع. لا تنسوا فريش كاري اوت، جميع انواع المعجنات، وايضا صواني الكمبو المشكله والصمون الحار. لحوم حلال الجاليه العربيه والاسلاميه، الملحمه باداره قصاب الجاليه المعروف سلوان جربوع. زوروهم على 24065 اورشد ليك في مدينه فارمington هاوس، او اتصلوا بهم على 248-476-0300. اسواق زمزم للمذاقي عنوان لجميع طلباتكم. اتصلوا على 248-476-0300. اسواق زمزم للمعامله الراقية وكرم الضيافة عنوان.
مسافر وحدك وفايتني.
أمتي ترافل للسياحة والسفر بإدارة نبيل الباشا تعلن عن افتتاح مكتبها الواقع على 28695 راين رود في مدينة وورن. خدمات متميزة وخبرة تفوق 20 عاما نضعها في خدمة عملائنا الكرام. مع أمتي ترافل يمكنكم حجز رحلاتكم الجوية داخل أمريكا، الوطن العربي وأنحاء العالم، إضافة إلى الأماكن السياحية والاستجمام. للحصول على أفضل العروض وأنسب الأسعار ولمزيد من المعلومات اتصلوا على الرقم 586-578-9126 586-578-9126. أمتي ترافل، عنوان للصداقة والثقة. قشات ميديترينيان ماركت بإدارة فهر قشات وأولاده يرحبون بالجالية العربية والكلدانية. جميع أنواع المواد الغذائية، البان طازجة، الكرزات والبهارات الطازجة. داخل الأسواق مطعم ميديترينيان شيش كباب يقدم يوميا جميع أنواع الكباب، المقبلات العربية العراقية وصواني الكامبو المميزة. تفتح الأسواق من 8 إلى 9 مساء من الاثنين وحتى السبت، ومن 8 صباحا إلى 9 مساء يوم الأحد. تقع الأسواق على 32839 نورث ويسترن هايواي في مدينة فارمington هيلز. لحوم حلال للجالية الإسلامية. لطلباتكم من المطعم call 248-538-7855. that is 248-538-7855. قشة ميديترينيان ماركت، خدمة متميزة ومعاملة راقية.
Welcome back to the Arab Daily News Radio Show. I'm Ray Hanania, and it is December 11th. I'm here every second Friday of the month, broadcasting live in Detroit on WNZK AM 690 radio in Detroit and AM 700 radio in Washington, D.C. We also have a live broadcast through WNZK. You can get that link by visiting our website at thearabdailynews.com. And if you miss the show, we always have a podcast of every show, and you can get that off of iTunes, or you can also get it off of the arabdailynews.com website, where our guest, Eileen Fleming, is a writer, and one of her topics, and she writes about many things, but one of her topics is the most fascinating topic, and it's so complicated because nobody has looked at it in over 30 years with the intensity that Eileen does. Mordecai Vanunu, is a Moroccan Jew. He immigrates to Israel. He settles there with his family. He gets a job at what he thinks is some kind of, I don't know, shop. Turns out to be a nuclear factory where they're building nuclear weapons in Dimona. And after working there for a number of years, he leaves with pictures that he takes, and word gets out, and the Mossad sends its agents to where he's now at, I guess in Sydney, Australia, and they bring him to Europe, and then they kidnap him there, and then they bring him to Israel. They convict him and charge him in a secret trial and sentence him to who knows how many years in prison. He spends 18 years in prison, including 11 and a half years in solitary confinement. Let that sink in, folks. That's horrible. And then he gets out after 18 years, and Eileen, I think that was in about 2005, you said?
In 2004. And
2004.
Right, and then what they did, and I've got video of Vanunu. He talks about state torture by solitary confinement. People can get that on YouTube, 30 Minutes with Vanunu.
You know, let's stop for 1 second and let's talk about you before we continue the story. If people want to find out about this and the other things you're writing, I know they can go to the arabdailynews.com, but what's your web page, Eileen, where they can go to get all the information?
wnzk.org, and they can find all the different things, because I do a lot of other things, not just this, you know, but yeah, eileenfleming.org, and then they can find anything they want from there.
eileenfleming.org. Yes. I urge everybody to go there and check it out. We only have a couple minutes, but you end up meeting Mordecai Vanunu, and you help tell the story.
Been back in solitary for 11 and a half out of that first 18 years. Then I followed his freedom of speech trial because that was fascinating. Here we've got the only democracy in the world putting this guy on charges because he dared to speak to foreigners who were media in 2004. The media, of course, ignored it because that's Israel. We don't talk about Israel's nukes here in America.
And then they put him back in prison, right?
They put him back for 78 days in solitary in a very maximum high-security prison in the summer of 2010, which was the outcome of his freedom of speech trial. And even to this day, this guy is still waiting his 8th petition to the High Courts, Israel Supreme Court, to end his human rights restrictions is under review at this time. He's supposed to hear by or before January 24.
Is he in prison now, or is he in detention? What's his status?
No. He's walking around, but it's very important here that in September 2010, 2015, after being adamant that he wasn't going to talk to Israeli press because Vanunu has always maintained Israel is not a democracy unless you are a Jew, which is a very true statement.
Right. Okay.
Ethnocracy. But, you know, he cut off his nose to spite his face here by not talking to him, but he finally realizes after all this time he's got to appeal to the Israeli public. And
what is his status, though? Is he free, or can he go any place he wants?
In Israel. Yes, in Israel.
Right.
He can go to Tel Aviv.
But he can't leave Israel?
He just cannot go to the little town of Bethlehem. He can't go to the occupied state of Palestine.
Can he leave Israel and come to the United States?
Pardon?
Can he leave Israel and come to the United States?
No. He can't get a passport. He can't go to the airport. But his wife, he got married in May. She's a Norwegian professor of biblical ancient Bible studies in Norway. She has
Vanunu. Hey, Eileen.
Asylum, but it's very important here. In September of 2015, a couple of months ago, he finally relents. He goes on Israeli TV. He speaks only in Hebrew, and he says he appeals to the Israeli public. I got married 3 months ago. I can't get a job here. She is the breadwinner. I want to leave my life, start my life anew. I'm finished with the entire nuclear story, and I've said this hundreds of times. I have no more secrets. I want them to let me leave and go live abroad with my wife, and that's the end of the story. Yeah, for Vanunu, that's the end of the story, but his story is all over the World Wide Web. Vanunu doesn't have to say another word. USA is so colluded in Israel's nuclear deceptions. Their big thing, in the UN, all these nations, I don't know, 170-something, are voted no. They voted for a nuclear ban. Guess who doesn't want to abolish nuclear weapons? America, Israel, Germany, France. I mean, all the ones that have been colluded in Israel's nuclear program are the ones who are fighting the rest of the world who want to ban these instruments from hell. I mean...
all right, Eileen. Yes. Listen, we're at the end of our show, but last question.
Yes.
Israel restricts him, in other words, then, correct?
Totally.
He can't leave Israel. He can only stay in Israel proper. Is it Israel, or is it just Jerusalem, or what's his restriction?
He can go anywhere in Israel, but he just can't go to the airport. He can go to Tel Aviv. He lived in Tel Aviv for like a year.
And his story is out, right? Why do they keep picking at him, though? Because
they're just torturing him. It's just torture, and they want to show the Israeli public, this is what you do when you speak up against...
So they're using him to discourage other Israelis from doing the same thing?
Yes.
All right, we're at the end of our show, unfortunately, and I'll tell you, Eileen Fleming is worth 5 hours, okay? She deserves more than 30 minutes. She's worth 5 hours, but she's a great writer, and you can go to eileenfleming.org.
Thank you.
Or you can go to the ArabDailyNews.com. You can read her stuff at both websites. You can connect with her. She has a number of books. Mordecai Vanunu is a great story. It's only one of the stories that she covers. She covers so much. And I want to thank you, Eileen, for joining us this morning in Detroit and Washington, D.C. to tell us about this really tragic story about Mordecai Vanunu. Thank you, Eileen.
Put positive vibes out there that Israel's going to relent and just let this guy go and be with us. He's 61 years old. He's got nothing new to say, hadn't been there in 30 years. But the world, this is an international intervention. The world needs to put the pressure on Israel. The Iran deal is going to fall apart unless Israel opens up that Dimona.
All right, Eileen Fleming, thank you so much for joining us, Eileen. We will talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right, that was Eileen Fleming, and it really is. It's one of these tragic stories, and I really should get into it more to talk about it because Americans just don't get it. This guy he converted to Christianity. He's a Christian. One of the reasons they hate him so much in Israel is because he converted to Christianity. They hate the guy, and they've imprisoned him for 18 years, and now they've restricted him. He's under kind of basically a house arrest. He can't leave the country. He's stuck there. Anyway, I want to thank you all for listening to us this morning at the Arab Daily News radio show, and I hope you will follow us again. I'm here the second Friday of every month, broadcasting live in Detroit and Washington, D.C. I want to thank Mike, our producer, who's been managing the phone and the shows and all the commercials. He did a great job. And I want to thank all of you, again, listeners, for tuning in to our program. And I urge you, please go to the ArabDailyNews.com. That's my base for everything that I do, writing about American topics. I'm writing for Al Jazeera English now, feature stories. I'm writing for Creator Syndicate. I'm writing for the Southwest News newspaper group of 6 newspapers in the Chicago area. And you can catch all that writing just by starting out at the ArabDailyNews.com. Thank you so much, everybody, to do it. Thank you, Ramzy, for joining us. And thank you, Eileen Fleming, for joining us, too. Both great people. Check out their websites, and we'll talk to you again next month, second Friday of January. Have a great holiday, everybody. Bye-bye.